Welcome to Northwest Aerospace News Live. I am Jennifer Ferrero, a writer for the magazine and your host. Thank you to our sponsor, Impact Washington. We are talking with Nick Wilkes of Impact Washington in today's episode. Impact Washington is part of a Manufacturing Extension Partnership, MEP. We will learn what this means and how they help businesses in Washington. Let's welcome today's guest, Nick. Welcome.
Hi there. Thanks for having me. Nice to be on with you guys.
You bet. Nick, thank you for coming to the show. You're a current advertiser of the vlog, and we appreciate you. Nick, I'd like to know more about what Impact Washington does. We'll dive into your services and what that looks like practically. But first, what is an MEP and why should regional manufacturers be aware of this type of organization?
Sure, great question. So back in the 1980s, I think it was, the federal government, the Department of Commerce, realized that small and medium-sized manufacturers were having some competition overseas, and some of our GDP, if you will, was heading that way. So they decided they wanted to launch a program. If you're at all familiar with the Agricultural Extension Program, that's the way that the USDA and other groups get best practices out, and that's been around for a long time. And they said, what if we were to do this for manufacturers? What would that look like? So in the 1980s, they decided they were going to launch the NIST MEP network. That's the National Institute of Standards and Technology, a lot of acronyms here. The NIST MEP, Manufacturing Extension Partnership. So there is one of us in every state who has a mission to support small and medium-sized manufacturers. The main goal is to increase the competitiveness. Every MEP is a little bit different. It's a unique public-private partnership. Probably about a third of them are based out of universities, which brings their own skill sets. Impact Washington specifically is just a private nonprofit. And we focus on economic development, if you will, for manufacturers is one of the big outcomes. So we're looking to help increase their sales or retain sales they might lose from competition. If they're in a growing phase, we want to help them grow jobs to support the increased demand they're seeing. Retain jobs they might have lost. Another big one that a lot of manufacturers are always after is cost takeout. So we help with that. And then lastly, from more of a strategic side, is increased investment. So that looks like maybe increased investment in capital and people or software. We do this through many ways, and it usually looks like a boots on the ground type engagement. And we can talk about that a little later, but really the MEPs are out there as a trusted advisor to serve the manufacturing community throughout the U.S. And we're held very responsible and accountable to our federal stakeholders to drive those impacts. So a really cool thing about the design of the program is the federal government has an ROI on us, basically, for the investment they've made in us, and the manufacturing industry gets to report back to our bosses how we're doing. So it really holds true to the trusted advisor mindset we're always trying to take.
Well, what types of manufacturers, including company size and maturity, can benefit from the services offered through Impact Washington?
Sure, the answer is all, but we do have a few key focus areas. So we actually have an account executive on staff who focuses statewide on 1 to 20 employee companies. Those manufacturers have a unique set of challenges, and we bring a unique set of resources to the table as well. So we always usher that. Outside of or larger than 20, usually the sweet spot ends maybe at about, I'd say, 400 to 500 employees. We find that any larger than that, they typically have a lot of the skill sets on staff that we're trying to supplement. So if you were to look at a histogram maybe of the volume of projects that we do to help manufacturers, the top of that is probably in about the 75 to 100 people. They've got an appetite to grow. They've acknowledged they need to grow and improve, and they're committed to making a change. And a typical engagement might look like sometimes they've got a bit of a thorn in their paw they want us to pull out at first. We'll do that. We'll engage. And then we really want to get to know long-term where they're looking to head with their business. So from there, we enter kind of more of like a transformational mode where we're trying to scope where are you heading in the next 3, 6, 9 months, and how can we support that?
Okay. Please discuss a favorite success story you were involved with in the aerospace industry.
Sure, yeah. So I am currently the Spokane account executive, also transitioning into a statewide role. One key client of ours here on the east side is Acrofab. We've known them for a decade plus and have helped support their business. Back in the early 2010s, Acrofab was looking for some help with reducing their waste stream, that being actually like wastewater and other toxics that are part of just a native part of their process for anodizing and plating some of their finishing processes. We have a partnership with the Department of Ecology. This is kind of cool, the power of the network, if you will, for us. We partner with Ecology on a grant program called Lean and Green. And what that looks like is the state had an idea for helping Acrofab out. We were able to bring an environmental consultant in, take a look at their processes, figure out where they might not have the best practice in place, get a roadmap developed for reducing those toxics, and implementing it. And that kicked off a long-term relationship with them as an aerospace supplier. Since then, we've engaged with them throughout their growth path. They had maybe a bit of an older, clunky software system that they started to outgrow. So we helped them understand their current state. What's your current system? Where are you looking to have support? What's the business going to look like in 5 years? So we helped them through a decision process for selecting a new ERP. And now we're in implementation mode and they're about to go live. With that comes plenty of challenges. So there's a lot of change management going on too, but helping the employees get trained on the new software. Through that, we were actually able to leverage the state JSP program, that's the Job Skills Program, which is an incumbent worker training program. So we access grant funds there to offset some of the costs. Still going here, still working with Acrofab, and now we're moving into a phase where they've seen some of the challenges with workforce, and they've decided that they want to support that, growing the workforce of the future internally through their own training program. So they've tapped on us to help with some of the problem-solving basics for new employees. Toyota Kata, which is kind of what's your current state, what's your future state, how are you looking to get there, helping them overcome those challenges. And most recently, they remembered that we helped them a decade ago with environmental waste takeout through that ecology grant. And we've got another project getting ready to kick off this fall with them.
Great. Nick, I thank you so much for explaining that story because I think it's really helpful for other manufacturers to really hear what does that look like practically, because it sounds like there's a lot of different partners involved and other groups along with Impact Washington that can help a company, and you can bring those to light. Well, let's discuss your services in some detail. What are the primary services and how long is a typical engagement with Impact Washington?
Sure, yeah. So we kind of categorize that in 3 main pillars, if you will. So we have workforce, operational excellence, and growth and innovation. I'll highlight kind of our most popular services that we see the most demand for in some of those. So in a workforce conversation, we actually have our strategic planning service in that because it ends up affecting a large part of the workforce. So we'll help a senior team figure out what their strategic plan is and then disseminate that throughout the entire organization. We actually end up doing that through a method called Toyota Kata, where boots on the ground folks out on the floor understand high-level strategy and what does it mean to them as their current conditions and where they're looking to go. In operational excellence, pretty key, lean manufacturing, nothing new there. Been doing that for a long time. Kind of do some best practices benchmarking, come in and do a gap assessment. Where are you looking to take waste out of your processes and improve efficiencies? A new one that's actually supplementing kind of the workforce challenges we have is our growth and innovation. And so what that looks like is redesigning facility layout, and then actually going in and helping with automation. So where might you have processes where you just can't find people anymore, where you want to drive efficiencies, and helping implement even some basic level automation. It doesn't have to be a $500,000 robot, right? There's some pretty easy, low barrier to entry automation technologies out there available. In a typical engagement, oftentimes we hope to start with a business evaluation. Sometimes people come with an idea of what they want to work on, and then we'll kind of pivot it into a larger conversation, address their current need, but kind of comb through their entire manufacturing process and organization as well. So do a business evaluation that highlights leadership, strategy, operations, quality, human resources, environmental, kind of just give them a benchmark of, hey, here's where we think you stand, and then kind of chart a 6 to 12 month course from there. And then, like you mentioned, a lot of our relationships, kind of the power of the MEP network, as we go and highlight some of these key areas and build a roadmap for them, we can highlight connections where other groups in the state or even nationally might come into play, whether it be like a Department of Commerce, an EDC, a port, a chamber. So just bringing a lot of resources to bear to help drive that roadmap.
Okay, and as a follow-up to that, so you indicated other resources. Now, you partner with other states, is that right, through Impact Washington?
Sure, yeah. So we like to say it's MEPs without borders, right? So there's an MEP in Idaho, which for the Northwest, inland Northwest is we like to say here. We're very friendly and in direct contact with Tech Health Idaho. I think you guys actually interviewed Gene Hamaker on the same show before. So Tech Health is a good friend of ours, and oftentimes we'll actually go into a client together to bring bring all resources to bear if possible. Obviously, a lot of overlap with the Oregon MEP OMEP. They've got some unique skill sets down there that are really close to some of our manufacturers in the Vancouver area, for example. So we'll leverage some of those resources, and it really is just the power of relationships across borders. The MEP network does have a node set up, so basically we're on the West Coast node, and National MEP does have some initiatives driven through that regional focus where the regional node has highlighted challenges specific to the region where we'd like to focus and drive some more strategies where we're telling the feds basically, here's the help that you can provide to this region that we understand best.
Great. Okay. So it sounds like a manufacturer does not have to operate on an island and without any support. There is, in fact, support available to them, and you guys can come in and advise them. So how do the manufacturers find you, and what does that onboarding process look like?
Sure. They find us in many ways. Probably the most successful way is when a current client introduces a friend that might have a similar problem. Other ways, straight through the website. Sometimes some of the best leads we have come through the website. They found us, they Googled lean manufacturing, or they've Googled automation for small manufacturers. We just pick up the phone, call them, and learn about it. We're pretty active at trade shows and in industry shows. Like I mentioned, some strategic partners for us are the local EDCs, the ports, and the chambers. A lot of them are actually working on business retention and expansion. So we'll understand what those regional ecosystem partners, as we call them, what they're struggling with, what's their local manufacturer need. Go in and actually do kind of a partnership meeting and learn about how can Impact Washington help you, or what else do you need from the local EDC to help drive your business. And probably the first step I'd say is we want to know kind of where you've been, so that for the onboarding process, where you've been going, where are you struggling, are there any code reds right now we need to address to keep you solvent or to help keep contracts in place? And sometimes that's just like a quick boots on the ground attack. And then from there we kind of blow out to that larger business evaluation process that I mentioned earlier.
Well, Nick, we're already at the end of our time. It goes by fast for the show, but thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and look forward to meeting more Northwest manufacturers and in the aerospace industry and helping them succeed.
Great. Well, if you're interested in learning more about Nick's business, visit impactwashington.org. And thank you again to our sponsor, Impact Washington. Until next time, keep engaging with the manufacturing and aerospace news you need to know in the Northwest with Northwest Aerospace News Magazine. Goodbye.